out the KFAN YouTube channel for exclusive videos, in-depth takes, initials, password, all the games, behind-the-scenes content. Search KFAN on YouTube and hit subscribe today.
Major League Baseball draft lottery introduced in 2023. The top 6 picks, it determines the top 6 picks using what's called a weighted system among 18 non-postseason teams to allegedly deter tanking. The 3 worst performing teams have the highest equal odds for the number 1 pick, and lottery picks, for the record, are restricted for teams in consecutive years. And then the remaining draft order follows reverse standings. That's a follow-up to a discussion much earlier in the program. Do the Minnesota Lynx want Lauren Betts?
It's a fascinating question because they have the 2nd overall pick.
That is correct.
Shrewd general managing right there, by the way.
Angel Reese traded by Chicago today for not 1, but 2 first-round draft picks.
I saw that.
That in itself might have been worth getting her because if we can get 2 more number 1s, although we don't need one because he's at the number 2 overall pick.
Right. I don't know the answer to answer your question, but I'm fascinated by her.
Here's what's interesting to me about her, and I think it's the age-old question. Dominant college player, especially on the defensive presence. She made the block of the tournament in the semifinal game, right? To basically make sure her team was going to win that game.
Right. Can't believe that player tried her.
Well, that's also true.
But it was a great block.
That was not exactly,
it was a great
exactly
block.
right. It was a great block.
I like the fearlessness.
But the question is, how do you translate? You know, we've had great college players who made tournament runs, won titles, as you predicted UCLA would, and they did. But does that mean necessarily you're going to be as good on the next level? I can't tell you I've broken down the all-22 on her. But it looks to me like offensively she might be a little mechanical for the next level. But can you make the argument that if she's good enough defensively as a shot blocker and as just an intimidator, that none of the rest of that matters? That even if she ends up averaging, let's just say, 10 points a game, doesn't become a big scorer in the league, that alone, given the need that clearly the Lynx have, that it would make some sense to go for her. On the mocks that I've seen, I've read 3 different WNBA mocks, and none of us have us taking her.
Interesting.
2 of them have us taking a center who I think is either from Spain or is playing in Spain, whose numbers pale in comparison to hers, but she's one of those players viewed as, the quote-unquote upside is dramatic.
Awa Fam?
That's the one, yeah.
Because CBS has her going 1 to the wings.
Oh, okay. Well, the one I saw was ESPN had her going to the 2 at the Lynx, so maybe she won't even be there. I don't know. And the ESPN one I saw had Betts going 4.
Yep.
So going high.
Yep.
But I'm fascinated by that question.
I am too, because I feel like even from last year to this year, I've seen her play in person 3 times, just the 3 games that the Gophers played. Mm-hmm. And even from last year to this year, just watching the different things that they asked her to do,
yes,
especially defensively, and that's the key. And really the key is, can you get out and guard a ball screen, which is what...
That's right.
The one place where you could get UCLA is when they would kind of, do the Rudy Gobert drop coverage, and you could if you could get up there and hit a mid-range before she got back out, that's where you could kind of score on UCLA. But it's still really hard to do that because she's 6'7" and can recover so much. So that would be my only question defensively with her as well. Is rim protection's a no-brainer. But given how the WNBA is like every level of basketball, a lot more 5 out, everybody can shoot.
Right.
You've got to be able to defend out in space. I know they worked on that with her, talking about UCLA, from last year to this year, getting her out more 18, 19 feet away from the basket. Number 1, because it helps them, but number 2, it helps her. So I don't know. She's very polarizing, though. That's why it's a good topic to discuss, because if you think you can get enough from her offensively and the rim protection is there, I think she developed really nicely at UCLA. I think she moves really well. She's fast. And she's actually, I think, got pretty good touch around the rim, which not every big post player has.
She does have good touch.
So I think there's a lot to work with if you have other boxes checked with your team.
I also like her manner. And again,
Totally.
you've watched her a lot more than me, but the games, she doesn't seem like, based on what I saw, a player that's going to get too crazy, that, she seems to have things under control, just a good basketball on-court demeanor. So that's going to be one of the stories definitely worth following for sure. We didn't have time to get to this with Johnny, but I want to explore it with you. I touched on it briefly yesterday, and since I said what I talked about yesterday, there's been a new piece written via Johnny's outlet, The Athletic, from your guy, John Hollinger. And the headline is, it catches your attention. For once, it's not what I learned, because that's the new trick.
That's a good
one.
one.
The Athletic, what I learned.
Yep.
This is NBA's widespread tanking has come at a significant cost for the entire league and is worse than you even think it is. So Hollinger sets this up by reminding us that Saturday, the NBA gave us, as he describes, one of the most entertaining games of this or any other season, an overtime classic between the Spurs and Nuggets. Of course, MVP candidates Wembanyama and Jokic going head-to-head. And, of course, the culmination was an absurd Jokic spinning step back that basically almost touched the ceiling of the arena and then went in. And he brings it up because the backdrop is what had taken place the night before. He suggests that Friday night, the NBA gave us perhaps the worst single evening of basketball in its entire history. Despite having 9 games of the schedule, there was virtually no one good to be found. A record-setting 5 of the 9 games were decided by more than 30 points, and only one was close at the end. In a related story, 7 of the 9 teams involved a team that was tanking, playing one of the 20 teams that long ago sealed up a spot in the league's play-in tournament or playoff tournament as well. Larger point to that same issue comes from Tim Reynolds, who's covered the NBA for Associated Press forever. I don't know if you've seen this one. So he wrote this one a couple of days ago, and he wrote, there have been 2 days in NBA history spanning 80 years where at least 9 games were played with an average margin of victory being at least 24 points. Only 2 in 80 years. One was yesterday, the other was Sunday. He's talking about last Sunday.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, think about that for a minute.
It's bad.
And again, maybe it's stating the obvious. I don't know that the league needs any more evidence, but if it did need any more evidence, this is the kind of stuff where you go, man, this is the cumulative effect this is going to have is destructive, because it will catch up eventually. It won't knock the NBA out to nothingness in 5 minutes, but it will start chipping away at this league. And again, do they have the magic formula? I don't know. There's a lot of ideas being thrown around regarding tanking. I'm not exactly sure. But you know what's often left out of these discussions is the damage that you often do to your franchise in the interim in terms of the way you are playing. And you talk yourself out of it by saying, well, if we get a top 5 player, all that's going to change. And you're right. But most of these teams aren't going to get that guy, even as they're tanking. So in the interim, what are they building? They are nurturing horrific basketball on-court habits, all at the expense of, well, we got to do what we got to do because we got to hope we get the big payoff. But there is damage that you're doing to your entire operation if you are not at least attempting to play basketball the right way, or to hold players accountable, the ones who are out there, to encourage good habits and to call out bad habits. That's always the part of this that doesn't get discussed. And, well, it's basketball. One player can turn everything around. But in the meantime, there's a lot of teams that never recover, in part because all along the road, they've made a lot of decisions in terms of how they coach, in terms of how they let players play in so-called meaningless games, that are habits that don't go away just because you snap your finger and say, oh, we got a great player now and everything's going to be fine. And all those bad habits that we've established are suddenly going to go by the wayside.
And also, like you said, if the lottery odds don't go your way, then it was all for naught. And then you look at the Wolves. Wolves spent a decade and a half in that morass.
Correct.
In that quicksand. And it took a seismic Jimmy Butler trade and Tom Thibodeau to get them even back into the playoffs for the first time. Wasn't it 15 years, 14 years? Whatever it was. And that's the tough part about it is you just go, I guess my question would be, if everybody's organizational philosophy eventually becomes, we just have to get the best draft pick.
Yes.
Why are we paying these executives what we're paying them?
Yes.
Why are we going crazy and giving ownership stakes? If everyone's just going to go, well, we got to just get a good draft pick and we got to make sure we keep it. And because it's top 5 protected or top 10 protected, there's like all these things that have worked. They've done a lot of things mechanically that have worked against the ability to actually be a good executive.
Absolutely.
In terms of just, the money stuff, because one argument is, well, free agents don't want to come here. So the only way we can do it is drafting, which
if
I don't know if there's ever a mechanism for that.
Right.
Maybe not. But then you allow all these pick protections, which allows so many different levels of tanking as you go along, that here we are. And you never have to be a good executive. You never have to be Sam Presti or Tim Conley or Pat Riley. You can just bank on, I'm going to go ahead and this is our plan. Our plan is going to be, we're going to accumulate as many good draft picks as we can get and hopefully stack them up. And in the meantime, you do lose a lot, I think.
We've got Tim Cheetah, former Major League Baseball umpire, checking in at 5:30. We expect a hotline call from CNN reporter Randi Kaye on our return to space and the moon, the Artemis mission. We're back, you could say, in the saddle when it comes to a space mission. And she's been covering that story for CNN. Now, I think, is in Houston. She was in Florida, now Houston. She is scheduled to join us in about 10 minutes.
Champion will be crowned tonight, Michigan versus Connecticut. Don't miss a second of the action. Tip-off 7:50. You can catch her right here on KFAN, driven locally by Dave Smith Motors.
Once upon a time, a Minnesota legend named Lindsay Whalen facilitated an interview for us on behalf of the Bumper to Bumper program. She helped us land Gino Auriemma. It was one of the most memorable interviews I've done in 30 years. You remember it well. I don't know if we've archived it. I hope we have at some point. And there'd be no reason necessarily to play it back today. What were the circumstances? Why did we get him?
UConn was coming here with Paige Beckers to play the Gophers in Dawn's first year.
That's exactly it. And we talked on sermons yesterday about the Gino apology. I gave him at best a half pelf because he didn't name Dawn Staley in the statement. I don't know how deliberate that was, but you're not going to make an apology without speaking directly to the individual that you went after, right? He didn't go after the staff.
Right.
He went after Dawn Staley. So to me, half pelf at best, maybe even a little less than that. I'd be very curious to hear. Lindsay knows Gino well, right?
Loves him.
And loves him. So,
like a lot of his players.
I wonder what her theory would be on why he unraveled to the degree he did. Here's what surprised me. One of the working theories is, well, he doesn't like sharing basically the mountaintop with another coach. He's used to being the guy, which I kind of get. But nevertheless, what's weird about it to me is, as recently as last year, championship game, South Carolina was supposed to win. South Carolina was higher seeded than UConn, and didn't UConn destroy them?
Pretty much, okay. Yeah, if I remember right.
My point being that I know he's a competitive guy, but to me, that should have made it easier to be philosophical, take the high road, as devastating as it is while it's happening, right? It made no sense to me that he would lose his mind, because it's not like his legacy goes away if he loses that game, even as an undefeated team. There were still some people who didn't think he had the best team, right? Some did, some didn't. I don't think it was unanimous, despite the record. So I thought he'd already kind of come to grips with enough. Not necessarily that he has to love her, because a lot of the great coaching rivalries, there's some hostility. But that's the part that surprised me, because the way it came off was, I'm threatened. And I'm going to pretend I'm mad about the officiating, and I'm going to pretend I'm going to be mad about this silly handshake, when in fact, what I'm really mad about is I didn't know what to do. My team didn't know what to do when South Carolina applied the pressure that it did. A horrible look for a legend, and so sad and unnecessary, I would say, because again, I don't think it was the story was going to be written like, well, the baton's been passed. It's Dawn Staley's world now. Well, no, it's still both of their worlds to a large degree. And again, a year ago, you beat her. You destroyed her. So that's the part that I thought was very puzzling. I wonder if Lindsay would have any theories on that, and maybe that's not something she didn't want to talk about publicly. But it was a very, very bad look for Gino. And did he figure it out overnight? Or did people come to him and say, you got to say something? And if you are going to say something, it's not enough to say what I think's been reported, that he was going to call Dawn directly to apologize. He should have put that, if he's going to release a statement, the statement above all else, in my opinion, has to be apologizing directly to Dawn Staley, because he took away from their moment in a significant way, in a game, by the way, that wasn't that close. It wasn't even like it was a 14-point game, as it turns out.
Right, they kind of ran away from him.
So it almost felt like, you know what? I was either outplayed or outcoached or a combination of both, and I can't handle it. That's just not a very good look for a legend.
It's a terrible look. Yeah. It's a ridiculous look. Frankly, it's disappointing.
Extremely.
It's disappointing because, yes, you were undefeated, and we can go down the list of, UConn, because of the league that they're in, plays about 5 games non-conference that are important games. The rest of it, Big East, they're doing what they're supposed to do. At their old conference, the Americans, same deal. So they're always going to have a crazy, ridiculous record. They probably would in the Big Ten, too, because they're always that good.
Right.
But it was bizarre. It was just, and I think
embarrassing.
It's almost like I feel like we're almost giving Gino too much credit because Andrea Carter also said, the only thing I can think of is that he's trying to take the heat off his players who played terribly.
No. Yeah, I don't buy that.
But that's what I'm. Yeah, but that's been,
to your point. Yeah, I know.
But people are looking for reasons, as opposed to the guy just lost his mind.
He became a child.
And trust me, I interview coaches all the time. You used to too, all the time. Like right after games, they get wound up about the dumbest stuff.
No question.
They're and I'm talking about
that's
every coach.
They're wired.
That's just for whatever the reason. That's why they are who they are. I think this is top 3 dumbest I've ever heard. That I was waiting too long for the pregame handshake. Right. And I'm going to let the whole game play out, and then that's when I'm going to plant my flag. Like, when you hear that, you go, did you think people were going to go, he was waiting there a while? Yeah. Like, what did you think the reaction was going to be?
Well, here's the other thing. Again, if that's ever worthy of discussion, we've talked about this how many times over the years in these kinds of grievances. You have no chance for people to pay attention to it when you just get your ass kicked by 14 points in the national semifinal game. Even if there was a kernel of truth to it, nobody's going to want to hear it.
No.
So yeah, it was it was embarrassing. There's no other way to look at it. It was an absolutely embarrassing night for him. And I'll say again, I don't think anybody was going to look at that and go, "Well, Gino's done. That's it, man." They'd be, "Well, wait a minute. How done can he be? He beat her by 23 last year,
right?"
So they're both really good. Maybe he has to share the spotlight a little bit with her more. And I get how you don't necessarily want to love that if you're competitive, but it's a long way from being grumpy about it to confronting her while she's trying to celebrate a terrific victory, and you utterly and completely attempt to take away from that in the handshake line. Embarrassing for him.
A year ago, he was tearing up about Paige Beckers finally getting her championship, right? And everybody was saying what a great moment that was. Right. And clearly he loved that for Paige. But part of the reason why last year's title was so great, in my opinion, because they hadn't done it in a while.
Exactly right.
They hadn't done it in a while.
He's still here.
Exactly right. Like you might think Dawn's here, and you might think some other programs are coming. And UCLA, by the way, I don't think is going to go anywhere, even though they're losing all 6 of their top 6 players.
Correct.
Like, that added to the richness of it, that Gino reinvented himself again, is back. Paige Beckers got her title, and it was a great story. And everybody, I think, even though they might not like Gino and what UConn has represented, got on board with it. It's bizarre.
And now what people are looking at is like, well, maybe you are afraid. Maybe that's what you're showing, and maybe it's time. Let's pause. We're expecting a hotline phone call from Randi Kaye in just a few minutes, the crack CNN reporter. We'll chat with her, catch up on a lot of good stuff, we hope. And then Tim Cheetah, former Major League Baseball umpire, at 5. Is it a 4-game series with the Tigers starting tonight? I think it is, isn't it? Isn't it a 4-gamer?
Let me count.
Double check. We haven't played great teams thus far, and we're sitting at, I think, 3-6 early this season.
4-gamer.
4-gamer with the highly regarded, relatively speaking. I guess that, well, you could say that about a lot of teams in Major League Baseball. And I think our ace is on the mound, Joe Ryan, right? He's become our ace.
He is, yes.
Because of other injuries, so he's become the guy until he is indeed traded away. We're going to get a hotline call from Randi Kaye in just a couple minutes. A little bit delayed because her hit on CNN with your guy, Jake Tapper, is about to take place. I've got CNN in front of me here in Studio A.
Per usual.
And so it will, yes, of course. So the idea here is she's going to take care of her CNN duties, and then as soon as she's done with Jake,
I love it.
She apparently is going to give us a call, and we'll get first. We haven't had Randi Kaye on in years.
It's been a while.
Too long is what it's been. But
she used to be a weekly guest.
Think about that.
When she had her Saturday show.
Think about it.
Living in Atlanta, doing the Saturday show.
We had a lot of fun with that.
It was great. She came in studio a time or two.
She's always been great to the program for sure. So we'll wait for the phone call. Texts are coming in via the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line at 64686. We're out at 6 tonight for the national championship game. Is that correct?
Kevin Fallness lengthy pregame show.
Interesting.
The tip's not till 7:50, but the pregame's starting at 6.
Kevin Fallness wouldn't know what to do with a pregame show that he'd quit. If they required him to do a pregame show that long, he'd say, I'm done.
Well, you know what it would be? Wild coach
all the hockey grievances?
No, it'd be wild coach John Hines joined Paul Allen earlier this week, and then it'd be 20 minutes of PA, Gorg, and the coach.
You're right about that.
And then he'd kick it. Then Russo Radio joined Dan Barrero. Let's hear what he had to say. He would just kick it to interviews.
Well, he was listening yesterday when I laid out the
he's always listening.
NBA and AP guys' indictment of the league regarding the number of blowout games. And he, of course, loved it. And what I said to him, I'll say to the audience now, at least the NBA and those who report it are willing to reveal the warts, right? They're okay, even though they, obviously like the game they're covering and reporting on. They're not so insecure that they're afraid to say it. If there was a stat like that in hockey, Fallness wouldn't know what to do with it, right? He'd try to suppress it, don't you think?
Yes.
He'd try to run from it and hide from it. He'd keep it. We're embargoing this, right? We wouldn't even give it much of a chance. So we'll see. By the way, Wild, here's what's fascinating, of course, about the Wild. And I'm sure we're going to get into this later at the top five, during the top 5 at 5. They're now right back in it.
I know.
For home ice. They now, it's amazing when you think about it. We've gone from assuming that only the Wolves had something to play for, like the 3rd spot in the Western Conference, 3 or 4 to get home ice for one round. They've gone from needing to win to that extent or having something to play for to what we're doing on the hockey side, which was just play it out. You're stuck in your position. You're going to have to beat Dallas without the home ice advantage. And yet, now we're right on the doorstep of catching, if we play our cards right, the Dallas Stars. And we even better than that, we got a game with them later this week. So it's a remarkable role reversal. Now it looks like the Wolves have nothing to play for other than, frankly, making sure they don't end up in the play-in. And the Wild are in a position where they have a chance to perhaps secure home ice in round number 1. Indeed, Randi Kaye hits the hotline and is kind enough to call us now via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Welcome back to the show. But I have to say I'm really good. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Well, I want to stand tall for Randi Kaye because we had CNN on in the background without the sound in the studio. They gave you like 30 seconds. Or did I miss it? Was it longer than that? It felt like you were only on the screen for like 30 seconds on this particular hit.
On this particular hit, yes, but I had a whole story run before that. That was just a live tag story.
Good.
And I've been going since 4 a.m. every hour, so, you got to tune in more.
I will. I should tune in more. That's 100% true. It's great to hear your voice, and it's great to see you're doing as well as ever. So give me on the Artemis project here, you've been all over this thing, originally in Florida, and now you're in Houston. Is that correct?
That is correct. I got to see the launch. I was in what they call the heat zone. They sell tickets to the heat zone to these VIP folks. And so you're the closest to the rocket. Wow. And it was incredible. I mean, the whole ground shook. It was really something. It was just so amazing to watch. It was the first launch I'd been to. And then they said, hey, by the way, can you get to Houston until they splash down? And I said, yes, let's do it. So we've been at Johnson Space Center since the day after the launch, and we got into mission control, which was really cool. So much history in there, and it's been a pretty busy week.
Is the access pretty good? Has it for you the last few days covering this thing?
The access, yeah, it's been great. I mean, they gave us a tour of mission control. We were able to see a mock-up of the Orion lunar capsule that they have here. And even at the Kennedy Space Center, I was at the walkout, so I was just feet away from the astronauts as they came out of their quarantine and got onto their little shuttle van and headed to the launch pad 39. I mean, the access has been incredible, actually.
The tweet I saw from NASA today, a new milestone for humankind. The crew of Artemis 2 are now the farthest any human has ever traveled, reaching a maximum distance of 252,752 miles from Earth, surpassing the previous record set by Apollo 13 in 1970 by about 4,102 miles. These are the sorts of stats. There's a lot of stats in sports, as you know, a lot of analytics. I mean, this is the sort of thing that it sounds impressive, but it's almost hard to relate to. It sounds so crazy.
It really is. I mean, at their closest point to the moon, which they should get to about 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, they'll be about 4,070 miles from the moon, which is just incredible. And I mean, I've been listening and watching them all day. I can't stop watching their live feed from the capsule, and they were just the things that they're seeing. They've trained for 3 years to describe what they're seeing, and they were talking about how bright the far side of the moon is in some areas and how brown it is in some areas. And it's also it's much more rugged and mountainous than the near side that we see. And there's all these new craters that they're able to tell the lunar scientists here at Johnson Space Center about. So it's really been incredible to watch them and listen to them. But as far as the numbers go, one of my favorite stats, you said they're going to be at the maximum distance from Earth, about 252,000 miles and change. The International Space Station is 250 miles from Earth. Wow. So that's 250 miles. They're going to be 252,000 miles away.
That's unbelievable. Now, I am old enough to remember the Apollo missions. You're, I'm sure, not. But what strikes me is there was great excitement then. I was old enough to remember that. And then what tended to happen is we all kind of took it for granted. It's like, well, all right, what's left to do? We've been on the moon. We're happy for you. And then the pushback started, as I'm sure you know. How much money are we spending here? Could we spend it better elsewhere? Are we really into this investment? Should we continue to do it? And that's what fascinates me about this project is it feels like the public is into it. Once again, they're revitalized by something that we seem to have lost interest in for a long period of time. What have you reported on any of that or picked up any of that in your travels?
Well, there is a lot of interest in it, obviously, but we did ask, here at some of the press conferences about that because, it was just announced that they're cutting some of the funding for science.
Right.
And so, but they did not want to get into that here. Wait, hold on. What am I watching there? Is that? Oh,
Do you have work? Do you need to go?
Oh, this is the crew looking out the window. No. I was just watching the crew. We have the live feed up, so I was just watching the crew looking out the window.
Gotcha.
Towards the moon. In fact, the Earth was so bright at some points that they had to actually put a T-shirt up to cover some of the windows in the capsule so they could see the moon better.
Man, that's crazy. So you were saying some of that stuff that you have. There have been questions asked about. Momentum is really good right now, but how long can it be sustained? Because, and I think you can speak to this better than I. This is the first this is the first trip. There's a lot more, that is supposed to be part of these series of space missions, correct?
Yeah, this is Artemis 2, so there's the whole Artemis program. Artemis 3 is more of a test, and then Artemis 4 in 2028 is when they hope they say they would like to land on the moon again. But we don't know if that things tend to take longer than they expect. But there's really no discussion of what's going to happen to the funding. I mean, they are really hyper focused here on this mission, and they just don't want to talk about anything related to that.
Did you mentioned how close you were, and you had not, I think you said you had not covered one of these events before. The power, even watching on TV, it just looked like the sheer power of this rocket is awesome, but I got to believe there. I mean, I assume you're actually not only looking at it, you're feeling it, correct?
Yeah, you could feel it for sure. And the crackling, it made this, it was almost like, fireworks or gunshots even. The crackling of the rocket boosters as they went up was just so incredible to watch. And just to be, so close, and people had tears in their eyes, and everybody was on their feet, screaming and clapping. And it was, but yeah, you could feel it. I didn't necessarily feel the heat in the heat zone, but you could feel the power of it for sure. But the astronauts had said that the launch was incredibly smooth. So whatever they were expecting, this new SLS, the Space Launch System, seemed to have really done its job and worked really well.
CNN crack reporter Randi Kaye, kind enough to join us here this afternoon on The Fan. In terms of you mentioned that you had a short bit, but after your story had been introduced, what was the emphasis in that story? Any particular nugget of interest for our listeners regarding what you just reported on?
Well, it's just I did a couple of interviews with some of the lunar scientists here, because this really is a test mission, and they really believe that the human eye is the best way to observe the moon, because the way they practiced here has been, they roll out a picture of the moon on a flat table, or they actually hung a blow-up moon outside the mock Orion capsule here so they could learn how to photograph it and describe things, because that was really important to them. But it was just really interesting to talk to the scientists about what they're looking for, how the team works in pairs, 2 at a window, and then 2 describing what they're seeing back to the scientists and mission control. And then they were going to have a chance to do like a free, they have 35 lunar targets, but then they were also able to do some free exploring, so they could pick things that they wanted to see. And there was one really emotional moment that we included today with the mission specialist Jeremy Hansen during as they approached the moon, asked if they could name a new crater that they observed, this very bright crater, after the late wife of the commander, Reed Wiseman, on board. So that was really, really a tender moment between this team that has worked together for 3 years, and they were hugging and crying, and it was pretty special. Have you
been in a position where you've had to report on the apparently broken toilet? I think it's been fixed, but there was discussion about the broken toilet on board. Is that all taken care of now? I mean, let's get to the important stuff.
I was going to bring it up, but I didn't know if you wanted to. We spent days on this broken toilet, and it's been a real problem. Even at the press conferences, it's the number one issue that everybody asks about. Is it and we're actually talking to NASA about, is it number 1 or number 2? I mean, it's really incredible. Yeah. But it's just remarkable. But it is fixed. There was the detail is that there was frozen urine in the line, and they basically couldn't vent it. And so they had to use bags for a little bit, but they're all fixed up. And so hopefully it'll work through splashdown on Friday.
The capsule is described as about the size of a small minivan. Is that true?
Yeah. It's about the size of a small minivan. It's pretty cramped. I mean, the hygiene bay where the broken toilet is sort of like underneath.
Gotcha.
And then, there's no shower. So I don't know if you saw the video. One day there was pilot Victor Glover was quote unquote showering, which is basically using these wet wipes. And there he's like sitting right near Jeremy Hansen. He's eating, literally like there is no
privacy.
There's no private space.
Yeah,
you get no alone time.
I'm sure.
But they planned for this and they really like each other. Like the mission specialist Christina Cook was saying how they all stayed on a naval ship and they all decided to share a stateroom because it's all part of getting used to being on top of each other, basically. So they all seem to really get along. Yeah, that probably makes sense.
Now, more importantly, are you still affiliated with AC 360? Are you kind of all over the place now? Our listeners, your fans want to get a Randi Kaye update in terms of sort of what your daily responsibilities are for CNN these days.
Yes, Anderson is still my priority, but I am being asked to do, we have a new streaming service called All Access, so I'm just doing a lot more, for digital, for streaming, for the network, for basically all the shows. I do more for Jake's show now, Jake Tapper's show. So it's been a good mix, but Anderson is still my priority. Yes.
So how long have you been at CNN now?
I'm in my 22nd year.
That's what I thought. I thought it had to be at least 20 years. Well, I give you great credit, man, because I don't have to.
I just left yesterday.
Well, here's the thing. It's always easy to talk with you, which we always have appreciated. But it occurs to me, one of the things I assume you feel good about is TV's volatile, man. There's a lot of changes, a lot of people coming and going, and the fact that you've survived through whatever, changes, whatever the case may be, and you're still in that position, you should feel real good about that because it's a volatile business.
Thank you. Been growing more volatile every day, but I'm hanging on.
Yeah, that's certainly the most important thing as well. When's the last time you were in Minnesota?
I was there for my niece's wedding back in June of last year.
June of last year, okay.
It was a beautiful wedding, and I think I'm going to come back this summer and meet her new baby.
Oh, nice!
So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, if you do, and you want to, you have a spare minute, we'd love to have you come in. I mean, we won't bug you, we won't insist upon it, but we'd love to see you in person because you've always been very good to us. Over many, many, many years, going back to the old CNN days when you had the Saturday show as well. So I'm glad you're doing well. You sound great. And, if you ever get back and want a quick minute, we'd love to have you in studio.
I would love that. Would love to do this in person.
Thanks again. Good to chat with you and keep up the great work.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks,
Talk
Randi.
soon.
Randi Kaye, CNN reporter, formerly WCCO television. You stay in cable news for over 20 years. That's a good run, man. That's not anything to take lightly. We think the fan's a dog eat dog world. Double A ball, but probably single A ball compared to what goes on at the network level. That's for sure. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. Don't forget Tim Cheetah in about a half hour, the former Major League Baseball umpire, frequent contributor to this program. We had him on most recently, I think, at the Great Minnesota Get-Together, right, which we do every year.
Yes.
He might have an opinion, or sometimes you got to draw it out of him, but he might have an opinion or two on the new balls and strike regimen, or that is the new approach when it comes to Major League Baseball and the appeals and all that kind of good stuff, which we knew was coming, but now is officially here.
It's your job to get it out of him. He's very hesitant. It's your job
That's true.
As the interviewer.
That's why
to pull the thread.
That's the job.
You got to pull the thread and get it out of him. That's why you're over there.
Some days you fail. Some days he makes it so difficult you fail, and you just say, well, I didn't get it done today. Top five?
We lived, I thought, an entire season in the Wild game yesterday.